Good morning, David.
Morning. How are you?
Good. Hi. Well, uh, when did you start your school?
We officially opened in 2016, but several years prior to that, the idea was kind of developing. But yeah, it's been 5, 6 years now.
Right. Yeah. And also, why did you want to open your school?
That's a really big question. I
Yeah.
get that all the time, and I don't really have one answer that fits all. So I guess the biggest answer is this is a school that I wish I would have had as a kid. And when I share about our school, everybody I talk to says, "Oh yeah, that's what I wish I had too." So the dream is to do better for the kids today than what I had. I mean, I went to a great school, but it didn't understand um, the nuance of what I needed as a student because I was kind of a different student than the typical student.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's how I felt when I first visited your school. I think it either is 2018 or 2019.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So I felt like, wow, I wish that my son could go to your school, but he was, but by that time he was graduate already.
Right.
But he was just bored throughout his school years, and uh, the public school he went to just don't have any accommodation for him. So basically, they say, okay, we have programs, so we have Honor Plus, but Honor Plus still simple to him, so he really got bored. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot of tours, and the kids come into the tours, and the kids most of the time say that they're bored. So the public schools are great for serving the majority of kids, but once you get into the upper IQs, a lot of schools can maybe accelerate 1 year, maybe two, but our school has students who are accelerated by 5 years in some subjects, and public schools just can't do that as easily as we can.
Right. Yeah. I remember like I think last year I was tutoring one of your students, and he
Mhm.
was still in middle school, and
Yes.
I was tutoring him on AP calculus. So that's several grade levels above, and most
Oh yeah.
yeah, most schools just cannot do that. They probably offer you like one one grade level up.
Right. So I believe at the time he was in grade 6, right?
Uh, Last year he was in grade 8.
Okay.
Last year in middle school.
I
But
mean, maybe he was 7, but you taught him
yeah.
AP Calculus Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I taught him Algebra 1 on Tuesday and Thursday.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
he was doing both at the same time.
I see. I see. And also like I started to teach in your school this school year.
Hmm.
So like in one class, you have like different levels, even though the age is about the same.
Right.
But I mean, there is two kids. They are basically grade 4, but they are learning grade A
Right.
math. Uh, and uh, yeah, some uh, grade 4 kids are learning like the 4th grade and 5th grade. So this is kind of a big, quite a range.
Right. Yeah. The way we do that is we test the students beginning, middle, end of the year, and we try to put them in the most appropriate class we can. And our school, our students are accelerated by subject, not by grade level. So they might be in 8th grade math, they might be in 6th grade English, or whatever they're ready for. We
Right,
try to make work for them, and because we're small, we can do that.
right. So that's a nice thing. So it's not really everybody has to learn the same. You really
Right.
people can go as high as they they are capable of.
Right.
Uh-huh. And so what's your enrollment right now?
Currently we have 25 students.
Hmm.
That's for grades K through
Right.
8.
Yeah. And also your school is accredited, right, with the state.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah, we were accredited in 2018.
oh, 2018. Okay. Uh, so for before that, you were not accredited. How does that work?
The accreditation process takes several years because you have to, you have to have student records, you have to get everything lined up. So if a school wants to become accredited, it's pretty much impossible to do the first 2 years, but we
Okay.
pushed it through quickly. And I was actually thinking we get accredited in 2019, but we actually were able to get it done in 2018, a year earlier than
Oh,
scheduled.
okay. Okay. So,
But it's a long process.
right. So before that, just run as a private school, but non-credited.
Right.
And what as so right now you take vouchers, right?
Yes.
As do you have to be accredited to take
Yes.
school? Okay.
Yeah. The bachelor program, there are several options. Apogee School, our school is state accredited, which is one of the options, but there's also some other national organizations that if you are accredited through them, the state recognizes that, and you can also get vouchers
Hmm.
through that accreditation. So Apogee will probably diversify our accreditation in the future. I mean, it's a long process to become accredited, but at least we have one for now. But in the future, I'd like to have several other ones under our belt.
Oh, okay. Well, I have some like the parents express a concern that uh, if you are a school that is credited and take voucher money, then there's a lot of restrictions on the school. And do you see that?
Um, yeah, that's a very common thought, and there are some trade-offs. The state accreditation we have is called Freeway, and basically they exchange academic performance for voucher money. So as long as we are testing well, then they're pretty much hands off. I mean, we have to have a couple requirements, but they're pretty basic things. Like, for example, I think one requirement is we have to have an American flag displayed in every classroom. I mean, there's certain things that we do anyway.
Right.
So it's not really a restriction. The only thing I don't really, the students don't really like is we have to give the state test, which is the I learn and the I read. But the students always complain about testing anyway. It's just, I mean, that's a small trade-off for being able to have the vouchers pay half or more of the tuition. So
Right.
we have to do testing for, I don't know, 3 or 4 days a year in
Mhm.
exchange for the student to be able to be there. So that, I mean, really, it's not a big deal.
Right. But
We get to the test and you know we do well.
right. Well, in a way, that's kind of a responsible thing for the state to do, right? Because
Oh
they
yeah.
have to hold you accountable,
Mhm.
like give you money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fair.
Right. And also you have a lot of flexibilities, right? I mean, as long as you follow their standard, like for example,
Right.
social emotional learning is on the standard, but you got to pick what kind of program to use, right?
Right. Yeah. So the state has a series of state standards,
Mhm.
and the I learn test is based on those standards. So as long
Right.
as we do well on that test, that they will continue to support us through the voucher program.
Right. And it does, like you said, help a lot parents to be able to afford it.
Right. So one of the benefits of gifted kids is that they learn very quickly. So the standards are meant for all children, and our students can learn the standards in a lot less time. So what that means is we have a lot of extra time that we can use to teach, enrichment courses. We have, a lot more social emotional and neuroscience content than most schools do because we have the extra time. We also offer several other special classes that are above and beyond that help the students learn how to learn. It helps them develop responsibility, independence, teamwork, all the things that all students need to know but don't have time for in regular schools.
Right. Yeah. Well, my when I first went to school, I mean, I saw the kids was outside and climbing trees.
Oh yeah.
I climbed trees with them.
I climb trees too. I mean, yeah, we live in a time when um, everybody's scared of kids getting hurt, but I've read some research that says that if kids don't learn how to take risks, that they won't know how to take risks later in life, and that they don't know how to gauge the risk. So, yeah, our kids do climb trees, but the tree we climb is very short, and
Right.
also has some like padding underneath. So if they, if they were ever to fall, they wouldn't fall on concrete or something. I mean, yeah, we're very, very careful to keep them safe, but we also give them a chance to take some risk in controlled
Right.
situations.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, when you and I were growing up, the restrictions were even less, and
Right.
we're still here, so it's okay.
Well, I mean, for me, personally, I mean, I learned how to survive, right?
Yeah,
That's what you do when you're in kind of that situation, and you become smarter. Like, some people
right,
got hurt. Okay, I'm not going to do that.
right. Yeah, and sometimes kids get hurt. They get a scratch or something, and they learn from it. They
Right.
do better next time. That's the whole point.
Exactly. And here's some, I think, there is disconnect because, like, uh, in sports, you get injured all the time,
Oh yeah, yeah,
and parents are okay with it. But then,
right.
yeah, then when you send the kids to school then they somehow get super concerned that they got hurt.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't ever want to see a child get hurt because
Right.
I care about them, but I also know that they have to learn, and if we're watching them and they can do it safely, then that's a benefit, I think.
Yeah, and also that's important, like recess time, especially for the younger kids.
Older kids too is important.
Right. I mean, and I do say just mean you have a recess, I think around lunchtime, right? Okay.
Actually, all of our students, even through high school, have a recess
Okay.
because it's important. Um, there's a lot of evidence that the recess or having a break in general is going to help students learn better because that their minds are fresh, the oxygen is flowing,
Exactly.
and also recess is an opportunity for students to learn skills that we can't teach them from a curriculum. I mean, our students love playing games,
Right.
and our students are very competitive, and when they play games, there's almost always a student who finds the rules seemed unfair. And
Uh,
and what happens next is the important thing because they're motivated to play the game, but they're also motivated to see the game as fair. And most of the time, the students are able to work through on
right.
their own
Right.
and solve that. And when they grow up and become adults in the workforce, that's going to be a very, very important skill to know how to to be competitive, but also learn how to be flexible too.
Right. Yeah. Well, like I remember when I was growing up, like there is no after school, there is no adult supervision. So we just get together and play games. And that's where we learn how to negotiate, right?
Right,
Um, how to work with other people.
right.
And kids can learn that pretty quickly. And kids, in a way, they are very innovative.
Yes.
I also learned that back then we trade like we have this cigarette wrapping, and we trade cigarette wrapping and assign different values based on how expensive the cigarette is. But
Okay.
they kind of learned how to uh, do the trade and dealing
Right,
with other
right.
people.
Mhm.
And I know you had uh, a master degree in neuroscience uh, recently, right?
Yes, I went to Butler and they offer a neuroscience graduate program. So I just finished that
Hmm.
this past summer. So
So how does that help you,
uh,
like in your teaching and also uh, in your like running the school?
wow, that's a big question. So gifted students, um, the way I explain to parents, gifted students have big feelings. And when they're happy, they're very happy. When they're sad, they're very sad. And that's kind of different from, I mean, everybody has feelings that go up and down. We all
Right.
have good days, we all have bad days, but the gifted students, the more intelligent they are, from what I've seen, um, their highs are higher, their lows are lower, and and we have to teach them how to live within their own emotions and do it successfully, because a lot of times a student can um, become incapacitated by feeling too much, and they aren't able to do some basic work because they can't cope with their big emotions. So one of the things that we can offer, and even relate to, because all of our staff um, have been former gifted children themselves, we understand
Mm.
like to be them, and we can guide them through that. But the reason I chose the neuroscience route, we've actually always done that, but the neuroscience is studying how the brain works, how the brain feels, how the brain learns, and optimal conditions. So one of my first degrees in college was electrical engineering with a focus on like digital computer design and all that. So I can like design motherboards. I can, write software for low-level chips, all that. So neuroscience is kind of the hardware part of the brain,
Mm.
and psychology, educational psychology, is more of the software part.
Oh,
So
okay.
so one of my former graduate programs at Purdue was in gifted education. I believe that was a educational neuroscience degree, but it had a focus on gifted and talented. So I've learned the educational psychology, and now I'm learning the neuroscience, which is more the hardware part of the brain, and
Okay.
together I have a more complete picture of how children learn, how they develop, how the different states of life, how to optimize, how to teach them, and so far it's been very successful
Oh,
with this
that's
approach.
wonderful. Yeah. And I think this is sometimes uh, parents find hard to deal with gifted child because they could be mature in some object and but very mature in others.
Yes, that's very typical.
Yeah, like when my son, I mean, he can play piano just like so well.
Yes.
And but he had a hard time just tie his shoes.
Yeah, the brains are so far ahead on the big things
Right.
that it very often, a lot of our students, I look around, their shoes are untied all day, and I say, hey, your shoes untied, like, eh. So it's not worth their time to stop and tie their shoe, I think. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So and what's the requirement for any child to enroll in your school? Like your school is called Apogee for the
Apogee.
Gifted.
Yes.
So do they have to pass IQ test or
Ah,
how that works?
that's a good question. So it's hard to know how to define requirements for a gifted school, because the first question you have to ask is, what is gifted?
Right.
And some people say every child's gifted. Well, every child is good at something, that is true, but by gifted, what we mean is an IQ in the top 2 or 3% of the population. So
Um,
so we kind of target IQs of 130 and above, which is about the top 2%, but we do have some flexibility for certain students. We've gone as low as about 120 because they're motivated and because they benefit from our program.
okay. But
So
do they have to take some kind of test
um,
before they can enroll?
they do not. So one of the challenges of the gifted program is, if we say our cutoff is 130, if a student has an IQ of 129, are they not gifted? Or if they have an IQ of
Right.
130, are they barely gifted?
Mm.
And that's a really tough, because an IQ test, if they have a good day in test, they might get
All right.
130. If they have a bad day, they might get 125 on the test.
Okay.
And we don't want one bad day of testing to prevent them from having the opportunity they need. Also, a lot of our students, in addition to being very intelligent, also have special needs,
Right.
and say they have problem with focus, and IQ tests are designed for students who typically don't have focus problems. And
Oh, okay.
so we might have a student who tests on an IQ test maybe 110, but their IQ might be 140. And so do we not let them in because they don't test well? I mean, it's a big question. So the way we get around that is when parents come in for a tour, the first question I ask is, what evidence do you have that your child's gifted? And it could be, oh, well, our student is already in the gifted program. Okay, well, not to start. Or they might say, hey, we have an IQ test. Here's the score. And that's a good place to start. Siblings, especially twins, tend to be very, very similar in IQ. So if one sibling is clearly gifted, the other one, it's worth looking into. Gifted parents tend to have gifted kids genetically. So I mean, there's so many things we can look at, and then we look at the evidence, and then during a tour, I will just kind of get a feel for a student. I'll just ask them some questions and just kind of get, because sometimes a student will have some characteristics that that fit the profile of gifted that aren't really measurable on a test. One thing is that they might be like a year or two ahead in classes, or they might have interests, or they might be able to understand concepts. I mean, I remember there was a 5-year-old that came in, and he was too young to be tested at that point, but he knew more about astrophysics than I did in certain topics, and he was really into that. So that's evidence that he was gifted. So I mean, really the bottom line is the admissions criteria has to meet what we actually provide. So students who are not gifted, every once in a while we might get one that isn't quite a good fit. So what we can do is we have them shadow for a couple of days, and our program is designed for gifted kids. And if they're not gifted, it's just not a good fit for them, and they don't feel it's a good fit for them. So we try to be flexible, but we also try to be careful to hit our target demographics. So being gifted is one requirement. The other requirement is they have to be a good fit socially, because our kids are very, very sensitive emotionally, and even with someone who has aggressive bully tendencies, that could really disrupt the entire class. So we have to be really careful. I mean, no child's perfect. Every child has challenges, but we have to be really, really careful to not admit a student who would be disruptive, who we can't help get to the point where they can be part of the community and do it well.
Well, that's the advantage of a small school like yours, right? Because you can you don't have to follow any rigid kind of stand or requirement. It's just like you have the flexibility to adopt to fit the children, right? And so you mentioned that you actually you were electrical engineer, which is what I was. That's why we hit off very well naturally. But what made you to become a teacher, and then later on become a principal? Open up your own school.
Right. I ask that question every day.
I mean, it's hard. I mean, I know, to start at school.
It's one day at a time. I mean, it's a process, and it takes time. So why did I become a teacher? When I was a engineer, for me, the joy was learning about how things work. I mean, I saw like a electronic device when I was a kid, it was magical, and that really drew me in. I wanted to understand everything about it so I could know how it works. And then once I got my degree, once I got a job, I was in a cubicle, and I was there for 8 hours a day, and that just killed me, because the environment was just like, well, I'm just doing the same thing every day. I'll be doing this for the next 30 years, and that's not the life I wanted. At the time, at my church, I've been volunteering with the children and youth, and I really enjoyed that because I can make a difference, and I was, I thought I was pretty good at connecting with the kids, and then the kids said, "Hey, you should be a teacher," and I thought, but I got a lot of money now,
Right.
but they kept saying, you'd be a great teacher,
Mm,
and eventually I thought, I tried substitute teaching and I fell in love with it. And then
mm,
as I was subbing, I got my teaching license in elementary and secondary science. And then I got went to Purdue for the gifted at the same time. And then I've been teaching ever since, and it's the best job in the world. And how did I start my own school? How to become a principal? Um, that's another big question. When I was teaching, there was always one or two outlier kids that was really smart, just didn't quite fit into the classroom. I mean, that they were being taught well, and they were, given the same opportunities, but they were just kind of different. And I found those kids, they found me.
mm.
And eventually I thought, these kids need their own school.
Right.
And that's kind of how Apogee came to be.
Okay. Okay. And your school, I think, is the only one, right, in Indiana. I mean, it's catered to the gifted kids.
There are others. Sycamore is a good school in Indianapolis that serves
Okay.
gifted. Sycamore is also top 2-3% gifted. I think the biggest difference is we're a lot smaller, and we individualize, and also we can cater more to special needs
Right.
because we're smaller. And I mean, Sycamore, I mean, I subbed for them many years ago,
Okay.
and yeah, it's a wonderful school. I'm grateful that they're providing the services they are to their students in our community, because Indianapolis needs several gifted schools because of our size.
Mm.
And Sycamore is doing a wonderful job, and I love that they're doing that. But the type of gifted kid that comes to us is a different kind of gifted kid that that is, I think, a better fit for our environment.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I hear some parents say that their kids went to Sycamore and still got bored. So those probably the outliers that you are talking about.
Yeah, I can't speak to that because I don't know
Right.
them. But
Right.
I mean, any child can be bored in any setting, even if you give them
Mm,
everything. So
mm.
I can't really speak to that.
That, that,
Another big difference is Sycamore is, I believe, pre-K through 8, and we are K through 12. So
okay.
we're one of the few gifted schools in the country that offer high school as well.
Okay. So you are basically the only one that offer from K to 12 to the gifted kids, right? In the state of
In the
India.
state, as far to know, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And also like I don't know how many grade levels Sigma would allow the kids to be, but in your school they can just go as high as they can. We talk about like I mean the student I tutored before. I mean he was learning calculus on his own.
Mhm.
He was probably seventh or
Okay.
right, and so I was teaching him AP calculus when he was 8. So I don't know if Sigma can offer that.
I don't know.
Right,
Sycamore goes through grade 8. They have wonderful teachers. They have a wonderful
right.
program.
Mm,
They're very established. I believe they're maybe 30, 35 years old now, and we're just getting started. So
right,
they have the benefit of being a larger, more established school. They have bigger programs. They have like band, orchestra,
right.
and we're a smaller school, so it's a trade-off, and
Right. It's
parents need to decide what's important to them.
right. It's really just like when you're trying to go shopping, you're trying to find the things that fit you, right?
Yeah, yeah,
It's not kind of like just one size fit all.
right,
So you
exactly.
really have to try it out and where to go and all that.
Yeah, the advice I give to parents is trust your gut, because parents know the kid better than anybody.
Right.
So if Sycamore is a better option, then yeah, please go there. But if Apogee is a better option, then we'd love to have you. So parents will know what's best for the kid, and I encourage them to go what's best for their kid.
Right. Well, one thing I like, I mean, many things I like your school. One thing is that I got to teach kids from, fourth grade to ninth grade.
Yeah.
And also I was able to establish a personal relationship with them. So I know them each individually.
Yes.
So that definitely is a big plus for a school. Yeah. And they do offer a lot of extra curriculum activities. I mean, your robotics club is actually doing very well.
Yeah. I mean, in 2020, we got to state, and we actually got a spot in the World Championships, but because of COVID, that was canceled. But it was fun that our team did the best they possibly could that year.
Yeah.
Yeah, we offer several things. We're hoping to offer more in the future.
Right. Yeah, I think also one of the things you offer as part of elective, is that elective or everybody has to take it, is the karate class?
Yes. So students have a choice of taking karate or PE now. We have a new teacher who is experienced in PE. So many students choose karate because it's more structured and they're comfortable with that. Other students prefer PE. So I believe that's third grade enough. They have a choice, but kindergarten to second grade, the karate is a requirement for that age.
Right. And your school now is inside the church. It has been there for several years.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. The facilities, they have classrooms, they have restrooms, they have everything the school needs.
Right.
And typically, the code is correct for being able to have a school in that environment.
Right. And also you have a big gym. Well, it's not a gym. It's just like, what's it used for?
It's like a fellowship room where you can have there's a stage there.
Right.
It's about the size of a gym. So
right.
We have karate in there. We have indoor recess in there.
Right.
If we need a big room.
Right. That's a lot of kids running around.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And the kids had fun doing that.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And also there's another school, the pre-K school, right? Daycare in the same building.
Yeah. We have a preschool called Untapped, which has been with us for several years now. They serve preschool and pre-K grades.
Okay. Are they serve like gifted, or they just serve everyone?
They have the same philosophy as us, Individualized. However, their scope is a lot more broad. They have several gifted kids, but they also have other students, and the whole idea behind the name Untapped is they're trying to find their untapped potential.
Right.
So Untapped is a feeder for us for some students. So we have several students now who used to be in Untapped.
Right. Yeah. And so high school so far, and I mean, you had been, when did you start to offer high school classes?
So the eighth graders last year moved up to high school this year. So right now we have a couple eighth graders who are advancing into high school. I mean, we've always offered high school content. So the student who spoke up earlier was taking high school classes in seventh grade, but now we have official enrollment for high school. So this is brand new.
Okay.
And we're trying to figure out. I mean, it's Indianapolis has a very competitive high school market, so we're trying to figure out what can we do well to be competitive in this market. So it's a work in progress, but given the success of our K-8 program, I think we're going to do very well in the next year or two.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
I think your school really a wonderful place for the gifts of the kids. Before I forgot, and also we talk about, like, when they have a gift, the kids, they have their own needs, and most of them are actually quite sensitive to things, either smell or sound. And like use my son as example. He was very sensitive to music to be on key. If
Mhm.
if things are not on key, it's basically kind of he just couldn't stand it. He has to walk out. He has to go away.
Yes,
Do you have that?
we do. Yes. Yeah, there's a student I'm thinking of who I suspect might have perfect pitch because when he was in preschool, when the teacher sang, if they were off key even a little bit, he would just not accept that, and they couldn't figure out why.
Right.
So
Well, that's where you can have a small school, then you can understand those people. Otherwise,
right.
in a bigger school, I mean, well, they just not equipped to handle that.
Mhm.
Yeah, and also especially like the emotional side of it, they have to learn how to control the emotion because
Right.
I know, I mean, I was like that. I had high functional autism. My
Yep.
son had too. Yeah, I have to learn how to how to control my emotions.
Yeah, but you're doing very well now. So
Yeah, because I
when I first met you, I couldn't tell.
okay. Well, I worked in
Mhm.
industry. I think working in industry definitely help because you have to
Right.
you work with other people and you have to talk with other people.
Mhm.
And that's where I think in a small school like yours, which their needs can be, I mean, people understand where they come from.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
because we can relate to that.
yeah, and you said that the teachers, they are also high, I mean, gifted when they
Yes.
were young, so they understand the peculiarities, I guess, the uniqueness of
Right.
being gifted.
Hmm.
Uh, and also, I know there are students who have suffer from like dyslexia or dyscalculia. Uh,
Right.
yeah, and uh, I my personal experience, especially as an engineer, and uh, there is actually a high percentage of engineers who had or has or have like dyslexia.
Right.
So how do you handle that in your school?
So every student has a individualized learning plan,
Mm,
and it's a document that every student has that all the teachers can reference. So when we meet a student, we talk to the parents, we understand what works for them. When we test them, we have test scores, we can set goals. So this document helps us develop a plan to support that student individually. So, for example, if they have dyslexia, part of that document is an accommodation for this, and it could be, accommodation for testing. It could be an accommodation that they receive extra time with the teacher, someone to read with them. So whatever the student needs that we're able to provide, that document
mm,
um, will guide us to give that student what they need. And when we create the document, we have the parent, we have the teacher, we have the student all involved because the document is kind of a contract for how we're going to educate that child. And we include the child because it's their education, and we want them to be to have a say in how things are done, and that way they can understand the process and be part of the process. And that's been a really positive thing for us to do that.
yeah, and as far as dyslexia goes, and sometimes uh, you just don't know, or parents don't know their
Mhm.
kids have that. Would you do you test them?
Um, there is a state requirement for testing, so
Okay,
yes,
so you want to figure out whether or not they had dyslexia.
yes,
But sometimes you just don't know. I did not know I had it. Uh,
right.
yeah, until I probably until about a year ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when I was talking about the symptoms, I said, "Oh, yeah, actually, I mean, it's not that serious, but I do have that. I mean, the symptoms, uh,
Right.
yeah, and so that's something it's nice to know ahead. But the thing is, like dyslexia also had this advantage. is like uh, because the order does not that matter to them,
Mhm.
that they can visualize 3D object pretty easily.
Yeah, yeah. I've noted that. Well, gifted people tend to mask disabilities pretty well.
Right.
So if they have a disability, they're smart enough to work around that, and they're much harder to identify.
Hmm.
Um, so, but yeah, very often, if they have a disability somewhere, they might have a strength somewhere else to counter that. So, like you said, like visually being able to see things. I don't know if there's a correlation, but certainly a lot of our students have strengths, and our school tries to focus on strengths
Right.
to get them to where they need to be, because like you said, not one size fits all. So we try to capitalize on the strengths to get them from point A to point B to reach the goals. And
Right.
if they're good at 3D, if they're good at storytelling, if they're good at whatever, we try to incorporate that into how we teach them.
Right. I mean, yeah, talking about 3D, you actually offer a class on
Mhm.
3D design, right?
Yes, yeah.
Mhm.
We offer what's called mini courses. So every teacher has something they're passionate about. For me, I've done chess, I've done 3D printing, I'm currently doing robotics, and next quarter I'm going to offer fencing. Give the kids, fencing swords and
Ah,
how to do,
that
critical
is so
fencing.
cool.
But yeah, second quarter I offered 3D design and printing. So we used different programs like Tinkercad or Google SketchUp, and some other ones. And I taught the students how to design things, and then we actually printed the things. And
All right.
it's fun to watch them develop it and then actually physically print that. They were excited about that.
Right. Well, have you offered any like electronics classes?
I have offered programming in the past.
Okay.
But yeah, and yeah, at some point, I mean, we're still a young school, and there's so much that
Right, right,
we haven't done yet. But yeah, definitely the high school program. I'd love to offer electronics and whatever else.
right.
To
All right. So how much what's the tuition like for to go to your school?
Tuition is currently 14,800, but we do offer many scholarship and discount programs. So more than half our students pay less than half of tuition because of that.
Oh,
So because we're an accredited school, Indiana offers what's called the Choice Scholarship Program, which
uh,
better known as vouchers. I mean, it's
right.
interchangeable, voucher, Choice Scholarship. The official name is Choice Scholarship, but everybody knows it as vouchers. So, it's interchangeable.
Okay.
So the requirement, there's a couple of requirements to meet the criteria for the vouchers. The first requirement is you have to meet a certain income limit. So the household is looked at, but number one, how many people live in the household. Number two, how much money the household makes in total.
Hmm.
And for example, a household with two parents and two kids, be a family size of four, uh, if they make less than 100 and I think 54,000,
Okay.
they qualify, which is a lot more than people think. A year ago it was a lot less than that, but they
Uh,
changed some rules, and now um, family of four makes less than 154,000 qualifies for the vouchers of the Choice Scholarship.
okay.
And for every additional person you have, that number goes up quite a bit. So if a family is even thinking about um, private school tuition, that's a place to start, because it could be a lot more affordable than they think.
Right. I mean, if we talk about like half the like the 14,000, that's about 7,000. So that's kind of uh,
Right.
a lot cheaper than private schools. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, private schools, of course, they also get vouchers and all that.
Right. Not every private school offers vouchers.
Right.
So ours does. And so the voucher depends on where you live, your home district. So some districts, it depends. Yeah, it's about 5 or 6,000, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less some places.
Okay.
The other thing we offer is a Sgo scholarship, which um, people can donate money to our Sgo, to our scholarship program, and they will get a very, very large tax write-off. So a large business that
Okay.
has lots of tax liability can donate it to us and actually come out ahead on their taxes, and
Oh.
we get the money. So that's one of our biggest scholarship programs we offer. So the way that works, if a student qualifies for a voucher, that they also qualify for the SGO. So depending on how much money we can raise in a year, that could be a couple $1,000
Oh.
in addition to the voucher. So that's why I say, tuition is about half
Mm.
of the
Oh,
14.8.
okay.
And on top of that, we have some other discounts. We have like a military discount. We have a sibling discount. We have a couple others that people can qualify for. If your child has an IEP for special education, then there's extra money there. That could be as much as 100% tuition paid.
Oh, wow.
It's
For IEP, you have to be in public school first, right?
no.
But don't have to?
Yeah, so the public school has to write the IEP. So if you believe your child, I mean, if say your child has autism, for example, and
Right.
they're medically diagnosed, you would go to your home district. Say you lived in whatever county you're in, whatever district you're in. You go to your home school and say, hey, my student has this diagnosis. I would like you to evaluate them for an IEP. And then
Okay.
in public school, it's their responsibility to develop an IEP and to develop accommodations. And once they have that, that can be transferred anywhere. So
Okay.
the student does not have to be enrolled in public school to get an IEP,
I
because
gotcha.
it's funded by tax money.
Mm.
So a student is eligible for that service through public, even if they're not enrolled in public.
Okay.
And depending on their diagnosis, many times up to 100% of tuition can be covered. And Apogee is set up to provide the accommodations anyway, so it works out very nicely for the students.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, that's good. That's good. Yeah. And especially for people with autism and
Right.
yeah. So they mean they have a special needs, and like school like yours can accommodate to them, which is
Right. Yeah. So Apogee is not a special needs school. I mean, our goal is to be a small, individualized, gifted school, but many students with special needs do well in that environment. So
right.
that's why we have what we do. So off the top of the head, I think maybe 25% of our students have autism.
Mm,
Several more have ADHD or ADD.
mhm.
And some have dyslexia. Some, there's other conditions too that our school is able to provide accommodations for. We can't do everything because
Right.
but we can offer the ones that are important to the families that are here.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's where kind of parents can just try it out.
Right.
Or just go shadowing, have kids take a couple, spend a couple of days to see whether or not they can fit into your school.
Yeah. So parents are welcome to come in for a tour with their child and just see what we offer. They're welcome to talk to other parents and welcome to talk to teachers. If it seems to be a good fit, we have the student shadow for up to a week.
Oh, really?
And yeah,
That's good.
I mean, the first day is kind of the honeymoon day. Everything is
Yeah.
day 2, 3, 4, 5. Really see, oh, this is a great fit. This is not a great fit, and we want the families to be comfortable with the choice, and we never pressure them. We are a business, but I'm of the opinion that I don't like to be pressured. I don't think they do either. So
No.
if it's a good fit for them, then great. If not, then there's other great schools.
Right.
And
Exactly.
we're doing okay.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, that's why, that's the one of things about this country, that there is many choices and you
Oh,
have
yeah.
freedom to choose. You can
Yep.
either go to public school, private school, big
Right.
school and small school, your home school, whatever. So
Right. There's a lot of great choices. So
yeah,
it's wonderful. I mean, different kinds. I mean, it's like buying shoes.
right,
There's different brands. I mean,
right,
for me, I have large flat feet, and New Balance has always worked for me. And I've tried other brands and they just don't fit me. But it doesn't mean that Nike or other brands are bad. It's just not for me.
right. Yeah. I mean, I have the similar problem. My feet is kind of wider than the
Yep.
standard, so it's
Yeah.
very hard.
Yep. I
Either
buy the widest
right.
I can find because
Yeah,
that
extra wide.
fits me.
Right.
I
And
can swim fast.
right. And your school is located on 64,
We're
46, sorry, 46 Street.
Central, so
Yeah,
we're about a mile east of Butler, about a mile west of the fairgrounds, and kind of in the middle of the Meridian Kessler area. It's a really nice, beautiful, established neighborhood. Been there
right.
for
Yeah,
a
it's a
very
nice
long time.
neighborhood. And
Yeah.
also it's on the Red Line route.
Yeah.
About, I think, couple blocks from that.
Yeah, I think 3 blocks from the Red Line. So our students get on the Red Line and go downtown to the Children's Museum or the State House, and
Right.
we use the Red Line for our field trips. And actually, the students plan the trip. I will give them the Red Line website, and I'll tell them to find how much it costs, what's the route we're going to take, what time we have to be there, and the students plan the trip as part of their curriculum.
Oh, that's wonderful. And also, like, Indianapolis has so many good have many good things to offer.
Oh yeah.
Many people don't know that. There are very nice and old buildings,
Hmm.
like the Scottish Rite.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a neat place to visit.
Yeah, there's a lot of treasures in the city if you know where to find them.
Right, right, exactly. Yeah. And also just downtown itself. I mean, nice day, you just go to
Oh yeah.
downtown and just walk around.
Hmm.
It's kind of nice. The monument circle,
Yep.
all that. I mean, a lot of history is there.
A lot of history. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for taking your time.
Oh no, I mean,
I enjoyed this.
yeah.